Welcome to week 39 of 52 Weeks of Storytelling. This week is all about social justice, what we observe, what we see, and then injustice, and how we tell these stories, how we can start sharing these moments, and really share that narrative that can be so impactful and help others understand what is happening in our lives. So, with that, I want to share with you what 52 Weeks of Storytelling actually is. It is my way of helping people tell their stories one page at a time, 1 week at a time, over 52 weeks, with the idea that in a year you would have a book. Basically, that's what ends up happening. So, with that, there is a journal. You can check it out. That's linked below wherever you are. There is a printed journal that you can get on Amazon, and there is a printable that is available on Etsy. That is a PDF that you would print yourself. I recommend Amazon just because, it's faster and you don't have to stand there and print it and then staple it and all those things. But anyways, I digress. So, the legacy storytelling method is the framework that I designed and offer as a way for storytellers like yourself or the people you care for to tell your story. We start with the 5 W's which are who, what, where, when, and why in that order. The first 4 usually are pretty self-explanatory. The 5th one, the why, sometimes trips people up. So what we're looking for here, or what I'm looking for, is how did you get to this moment? Why did it happen? What was going on in your life that led to this moment that you're sharing? And then the second set of questions are what I like to call our digging deeper questions. So we have impact and feelings and what you want people to remember about this moment. Now that last question, that really helps you frame and think about this moment that you're sharing. And it really gives you a chance to reflect, and it gives your storyteller a chance to reflect and think about what they want people to remember about this moment that you're sharing. From there, we're going to talk a little bit about the weekly story prompt. So this is our intro to the weekly story prompt. When I came up with these set of questions, there's always a lot going on in the world. There's always things going on that are not cool. There's a lot of injustice happening. There's also really cool social justice things that are happening, and everything is always happening simultaneously. And I know I personally struggle and have to work at recognizing that there's good and bad, and everything happens in the same space. And while I would like for only the good things to happen, I know the bad things happen too. And as from my storytelling approach and what I believe our stories are, every moment matters. And even if it's bad, even if it's terrible, especially if it's bad and terrible, those are moments that we need to be sharing too. And that's really where this idea of social justice and injustice came from. It's the reason I talk about grief. It's the reason I talk about death. And that every moment that shapes us, every moment where we have a chance to grow or don't grow, and it offers an opportunity for us to share with someone else, maybe teach someone else, or provide them with a little bit of a framework of how to approach that situation when it comes up for them. So that's really what I was thinking about when I came up with this. I hope that helps you think about something that has happened in your life or you've observed that you wish you would have shared with someone, or if there was a moment that you heard about from someone else that you are so glad they shared with you, and maybe what you learned from that. And so those are a couple of ideas. I don't have a great story example. Again, like being able to decide which one. And I tend to go for the positive bent on things. So I think from a social justice perspective, I've had the opportunity to witness and injustice. I've had the opportunity to witness in a couple of different facets and parts of my life things that are incredibly powerful and wonderful from a social justice perspective, and also super not awesome injustice things. And both have had, like, anytime something happens, I always find something to learn from it just because that's my personality. And I think one of the things I've taken away from what I've seen, experienced, and heard about, and had people share stories with me about, is that it's one of my responsibilities to make sure that my children, my small humans, know that there are things going on in the world that they can't control, and that there are bad things happening and there are good things happening, and that they get to choose how they interact with the world, and that I choose to fall on the side of trying to do good in the world as best I can, and sharing why that matters and all of these other things that I do. And so that if you think of that story example, we call that the end of the story example, is it wasn't necessarily a specific thing that I experienced or didn't experience, but more of like a collective human experience, and saying, okay, this is what I know. What can I do? What can I actually do about it? And one thing that I can do about it is help inform my children and my small humans that these things happen, that awful stuff happens, and that even if it's not happening to them, that it's not okay. And that's what matters. And that's what I want people to remember. So that is my story example. If you can't tell, this was a super hard one to do as a white woman or white person. So just, I think self-awareness of knowing where your privilege is, and also knowing where maybe there's some things in your life that haven't been so great, and that, what can we learn from that, and how can we share that with others in a way that informs, educates, and allows for growth and change. And I think those are the takeaways from this video. So I'm going to stop now before I ramble myself into a corner. So with that, I hope you have an incredibly wonderful day, that you get some writing in, and that you take a moment to share this with someone you love, or if someone's sharing their story with you, ask them what they've seen, ask them what they've experienced, and walk through those interview questions. It's amazing what the stories that can come out of those. All right, I promise I'm done. Have a great day. Until I see you on the next video, or you're listening to the next thing, happy writing.